G'day and welcome back to part 2 of this Paillard radio. It's made in Switzerland around about the end of the 40s. Last week I looked it over, it looked alright, I put some power on and it actually worked. So I cleaned the chassis up, I came back inside, I thought I'll try it before I do any component changes, and it didn't work. It then proceeded to slowly destroy itself by carbon tracking in all of the phenolic areas, the two IF cans, and one of the valve bases started sparking. I've repaired the IF transformer bases. The valve bases I couldn't do anything about, so I've ordered some new ones. Here's the valve base that was sparking last time. I'll turn the radio over and we'll look at the new bases I've got. Here are the new bases I got. They'll fit in perfectly. Different design to the original, of course, but well, it's what you can get. I could have got that type, but it was going to cost 60 bucks, I think. These were $16 delivered, so I'll stick with these. But I can put those in. These go in from the bottom, of course. I can pop rivet them in, I reckon. I think, because that's got a nice metal base on it. These are the two filament wires, so I can take them off. That one can stay there. That one's going to ground over here. Okay, I do have to take that wire off, or that resistor I mean. Right, these two guys here can come off. This one here, I think that's the B plus for the oscillator, local oscillator. This wire to ground, I'll just cut that I think. This should come out. There we go. There's the new one, that goes in there in that direction. And I can see it's going to be too wide there. It's hitting on the side of the chassis. I'll have to go and grind a bit off that so that it sits in the center. I have the base mounted and I'm just going to try and put some pop rivets in. The hole in the bottom of the base itself is a bit big. No, it's okay. I was going to say the hole in the bottom of the base is a bit bigger than the top, but anyway, that'll be okay. The second one's a bit hard to get to. I think I've got it fairly straight on. Good, that's not bad at all. I had the valve base orientated that way. It was supposed to be like that, so I picked that up before I put the rivets in. There's the two filaments. I think that's the plate, so that comes off here. Not 100% sure that is that. I think, no, I'm not sure. I'll have to look that up. I think that goes on there, and there was a resistor from there to over here. I'm going to solder all this up off camera. I'll come back when it's finished. It's just too hard with all the cameras and lights around me. So I'll be back in a second. I've soldered all the components on the base and checked it, so it should be right. I'm going to try the radio out, see if it works. Over here I replaced this capacitor in the last episode and I left a blank wire because I intended to change that base. I've just jumped across it for the time being to do the test. I'll decide whether I change that base later on. Okay, I'm all set to try it out. I think that was medium wave, put some volume on. Okay, alright, let's give it a go. I'll give it a second to warm up and see what happens. There's no sound at all. Oh, it's got crackles. Oh, there it is.
ABC Gold Coast.
Okay, the antenna wire was touching the frame. Hey, it's working! Bit of cranberries there. Oh, yeah, wow, that's great. Sounds alright.
Dave, every 10, right here on SEM. Get $50 off your first year Suncorp Comprehensive Car Insurance when you...
Alright. All the stations there. Wow, what an effort this has been. I really started to wonder if it was ever going to work. So what do I do next? Do I change all the bases? It's really a big job, particularly this one here. It's just covered in components and wires. It's not impossible, but it is working. Are they going to fail in the future? Probably. Whether I change the base or not, I've got to change that capacitor there. That's the only one left, and I've changed a lot of resistors too, so I've measured probably most of them, I think. I'll turn it over and let it run for an hour or two, and if nothing happens I might just leave the bases that are in there and I'll come back and change that capacitor. I ran the radio yesterday for hours and hours and it was perfect, and I was deciding whether I should bother changing those valve bases. I didn't take my eye off this the whole time it was running. I had it in the room next to me and it was okay, but that's the point. I don't trust it. So I think what I will do is replace the other 3 bases there, and anyone that inherits a radio in the future is not going to have their house burned down because I couldn't be bothered changing those. So I'll put a stack of records on my record player and just let them run through. These won't take that long. I reckon I'll get them done in about 2 hours. When they're done I'll come back and we'll have a look at whatever's got to be done next. I have completed changing the valve bases. My estimate of a couple of hours to do the lot was a little bit out. This one probably took maybe an hour. This one took half a day and that one about 3/4 of an hour. These 2 bases intertwined so much I had to do one, try the radio out, make sure it still worked, and then do the other one and sort of undo some of the first part. Once I'd finished, I put power on to test it. The radio worked fine. I did actually make a wiring mistake with this. I had it, I'm not sure where I put it, but it was in the wrong place. But I found all that before I put power on. I'd also put this capacitor in upside down, which I also found before I put power on. So it pays to check it worked, doesn't it? So I put power on, the radio works perfectly. I set all the cameras up so I could show you, put the power on again, there's nothing, it doesn't work. That's not true, it does make a noise. I don't think the oscillator's working. We'll power it up and I'll show you. It'll probably start working. I have it on full power, it's been running on full power. It's warmed up, you can probably hear it, I'll turn it up a bit. And I can tune it over here. There's an aerial on it and nothing's happening. You can hear it trying to tune. So it's tuning away there, you can hear it's dropping off. So it's trying to tune, but it's not picking up any stations. That would indicate the oscillator isn't working. This is the mixer valve here. I've made a little coil up for my oscilloscope, and if I put it in here somewhere, those are the 2 pins for the oscillator. It should show up something. There's nothing going on there, nothing at all. Another way to see if the oscillator is working is to check the voltage drop across that resistor there, and that goes to ground, so I can put that on there and we've got 0 volts. So the oscillator is definitely not working. This is about the only resistor of this style that I left in, and I did measure it, I checked it when I had it disconnected, and it was 47k. So it should be 47k, and yeah, look, it's 56. There's probably about 4 or 5 of these in. I've replaced them all. I'm going to change that one. We'll get it out of there. I'll put a new resistor in there. In the meantime, I've actually put this across my meter and it is reading 56, and it read 47 the other day. Perfect. So these, yeah, they're just not good. I've got a new 47 here. We'll stick that in, see what happens. I've mounted the new resistor. I also went around and put flux on each one of these connections here and resoldered them. For whatever reason, the pins on these new bases would not accept solder, and this was the first one I did, and I've gone around and redone them, and I reckon that might be the problem. I don't really think that resistor was ever going to be a problem, but need to eliminate it. So let's power it up. I'll give it a minute to warm up and we'll see if we get a station. There it is.
The debut single by Australian recording artist Kian from her self-titled debut.
Okay. Yeah, so I think what it was a bad solder joint. They all look good, and I wobbled them all and they all look solid, but I don't think they were necessarily connecting to the actual pins on the bases all that well. So that seems to have sorted it. Just for fun, I'll get my little sniffer and I'll put that in there and see if we can, there it is. There it is. There it is. This radio's been an absolute roller coaster. It worked, and then it didn't work, and then it caught fire, and then it went out, and then it caught fire again. It's just been up and down. It's been continually befuddling me. These European radios are like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. Anyway, I'll set up and we'll move on to the next bit. Before I move on to other things, I'm going to check the voltage going to the plate. And look, it's 306. Actually, that's the screen. The plate is this one here. Yeah, 274. That is too high. And I'm wondering if that's some of the reasons that there was arcing and sparking going on. I need to drop that.
I discovered in part 1 that the original field coil speaker had been replaced with a permanent magnet speaker, and they'd added a choke to take the place of the field coil.
Here's the speaker assembly. There's the field coil. It's not there anymore, and it's been replaced with this one here. The original field coil was 960 ohms. This one's about 35. So we're shy about 925 or something, and that's why the voltages on these are so high. This is the return from the choke. So what I thought I'd do is I'll put a 1k resistor in there. That'll make up for the field coil that's missing and should drop those voltages, maybe 20 volts or so. There's the new resistor. We'll see what we've got now. 289, and this one's 280, so that's much better. So that's about 20 volts down. Much happy with that. Okay, let's move on now. I think we're all pretty sick of alignments, but I did, however, adjust the IF transformers when I was trying to troubleshoot this thing, so they're not correct. I did rough them in a bit later on, so they're probably not far off. I'll just quickly run through it and make sure it's all aligned correctly. I have my AC voltmeter here. I've connected it to the plate of the output valve. The signal generator is on 470, which is the IF frequency, and I've plugged that into the grid of the mixer valve there. I'll turn it up and we'll see it on the meter here. We'll have to put up with the noise a bit. I've got my trimmer tool on the primary of the second IF transformer there, so I'll just adjust that. As I said, I'm pretty sure it'll be close. Yeah, that was actually spot on. There's the first IF transformer primary. And that was pretty good too. I'm on the second IF transformer secondary. Let's see what we can get out of that. It's not as responsive, this one, but there's the peak about there. Okay, we'll do the last one here. Once again, I had roughed that up pretty accurately. Alright, that's all I'm going to do. I'll just go and check them again, but we'll move on to the next bit. I've refitted the dial glass and the pointer. I set the generator at 600 kilohertz. I aligned the dialer at 600 kilohertz. I then wound up to 1500 kilohertz, put the generator at 1500 kilohertz, and it all lined up perfectly. It was absolutely spot on. So I'm not touching anything there. Now the only other thing to do is the two fuses up here. This radio originally had two 80 milliamp fuses in here. These are in the secondary out, so there's one in each line out of the secondary. Now these were called torpedo fuses. They have a point on each end and they just slip in there, and they look something like this. To service the radio, I just shorted them out with some wire. I'm going to cut it out. I had to have a bit of a think what to do. I could short them out and just put a fuse in the mains. And then I thought, well, I've got these little fuse holders here. These take the M205 type fuses. And they look quite neat. It'd be neater if I cut these little tangs off, I suppose, but then I don't like altering the radio more than what it was originally. So that's an option. Or otherwise I could drill little holes in there and solder them on there, I suppose, so they'd sit down there. Then I had a brainwave, or maybe a minor stroke. What I did was machine up some little bullet shapes. They're hollow inside or drilled out, and the fuse fits inside there. And another one goes there. And I've come up with a bullet shaped fuse. See if I can get it in the holder there. Come on. Oh, stop it. Look at that. There's the second one. Yeah. They're pretty good. Is that one a bit loose? Yeah, I might have to shorten those tangs there. I'll try that. I think that's a bit tighter now. There we go. Yeah, that's good. Good and solid. I thought maybe that one was loose. No, it's quite tight. These are 100 milliamp fuses. I couldn't get 80 milliamp fuses without sending away, and then postage would make them ridiculously priced. That's all I need to do to the chassis. I'll go outside and start on the case. Well, let's have a look at the case, and it's a mess. It's got water been dripping on it or something. Something's washed it out. That's going to be hard to fix. I think the only case that I had would look worse than this was the Eris case. and yeah, that came up really well, so there may be hope for it. Structurally it's pretty good, except this bottom corner's come apart, so I need to find out what's pushing that away and try and glue it back together. But apart from that, it's pretty good. All the corners are good and solid. Yeah, it should be okay, should come up okay. First thing I'll do is remove the speaker baffle plate. Appears to be only some screws in each corner, so that should come out easily. There's the grill cloth. It's pretty discoloured. It seems in good condition. Yeah, maybe if I can unglue it, I could even flip it around if I can't clean it. That's what it used to look like. There's a shaft on the side here that had the tone knob on. The tone knob is broken, and it still had this ring on here. There's a Bakelite centre that's fallen out, but the grub screw on it is frozen. I can't move it. I managed to actually just wind it off, and you can see the scoring there. I managed to get that off. The grub screw had broken off, but I managed to cut a slot in it and get a screwdriver in there. I've been soaking this in penetrant for an hour, and I cannot move it. It just will not move. Now, if you do have this issue, you can apply heat to the fastener there, and it should give way. It's going to make it red hot. That should do it. If I get my screwdriver in there now. I think it's turning, is it? Yes, it is. Oh, there it goes. Alright, so that was stuck tight. Wow. Alright, I'll let that cool off. Ultimately I'll paint strip this whole case, but I do have a furniture scraper here. Just see what's underneath. Well, there it is. It may not be as bad as I thought. You can see the watermarks there, that dark area there, that's all staining from the water. There are ways to remove that. You can see up here it's also very dark up here. I want to have a look at that corner that's separated. I need to get this board out. It appears that it was glued in at some point. It's not anymore, but it's stuck under that, stuck under that. Oh dear. If I flip the cabinet over, I should be able to bang that out. Alright, not quite as neat as I was hoping. Anyway, it's out. On this one, this little piece of wood's still glued on to try and get him off. A little bit rougher than you'd like, but whatever it takes. That's not going to join up again. It's not going to meet properly. I could do the best I can and fill it, but it's going to look like it's filled. I might be able to break that joint and pull it a bit closer. I'll get this bottom off first. It appears this is a nail on, and I've been trying to get it off just by levering it up. There's a nail there. It is coming. It sounds awful though. Oh dear. Oh well. Well, there you go. That'll do. I need to get them out because they're going to impede me breaking that joint. I assume they've used hide glue here, so I thought if I heat this wood up, it may be enough to just loosen it so I can get it out, or break it. And it's pretty warm. If it doesn't come, I'll just have to use filler. It's definitely softened it. Come on. Hey. Alright, that's come apart exactly as I wanted it. If I trim a bit of the wood off here, I should be able to pull that back closer together. Alright, let's see how that went. that looks good. That looks much better. All right. I'll glue all this together and let it set overnight. We'll have a look in the morning. It's all glued back together and it's cured. And it's not bad. It's not bad at all. It needs to be sanded. There's a little bit of a lip there, but it's level there. So anyway, I'll sand that out. That'll be okay. The base is all glued back together, so it's nice and solid again. I've been cleaning up the case and I've been using the scraper and it's working all right on this. This stuff's very crusty and it's just coming off quite easily. Normally I'd go straight to paint stripper, but this seems to be working all right. So I've just been doing that, and here's the other end. It's looking all right. There's bits of filler in it from the factory, some down there, there's some down the bottom here. So yeah, that's what it is. And there's the water staining, you can see it clearly now. It's had something on there, a ring, a glass or something, and yeah, who knows. Now the finish is coming off pretty easily, so I'll keep going. I'll do the entire side there. The front, I think I'll have to put some paint stripper on that because I won't be able to scrape that out, of course. I finished scraping all the finish off. I've run over with a bit of coarse sandpaper. I had to paint strip all around the top, and I've done the boards from inside as well. I've also done the little foot that runs around the bottom of the radio. I'll let the stripper work for about 10, maybe 15 minutes, and then I'll come and clean it all off. I've stripped the front off. All the corners are nice and smooth now, and yeah, it looks really good. I'm happy with that. What I need to address now is the watermarks up the top here. I'm going to use some oxalic acid to do it. It will bleach the wood. This bowl has the oxalic acid in it. This is washing soda. That should neutralise the oxalic acid. So I'll just pour a bit of what used to be boiling water. There we go. Just stir that up. Alright, that'll do. Because it has a really solid edge around there, I'm going to spot treat it first, and I'll just paint it on the darker areas there. It's probably worth noting I've never done this before. I have done it on the Chrysler radiogram that I got for $5, but I used hydrogen peroxide for that. I haven't used oxalic acid before. So this is a bit gentler, I think. It's been about 2 or 3 minutes. I'll just add a bit of water and see if it's done anything. It's hard to say. You can see where I've added it. This is a bit of the soda, washing soda. That should just neutralise that. And I would say it hasn't done much there, but it's certainly lightened it around there. I'll do this bit here. I'll wipe it off. It's a bit hard to tell with it all wet. Okay. I would say it has removed that bit there. This is still here though, and that one. I'll just put some oxalic acid on there again, and it's reacting with the washing soda. There's still a mark there. I don't know if that's just damp because I put on the acid or not. Right, I'll wash the whole thing down with the oxalic acid and see what we've got. I'm going to have to let it dry, I think, before I can tell what's happened to it. Let's try to neutralise it again. Looking at that area, that's responded well. This is not looking too bad. This one's a bit of a mess. Just looking at that now, this is probably how it's going to come up with stain on it, and you can still see that area there. But the rest of it looks all right. I've let the top dry so I can see what's going on. That one, you can still see the ring around there. This one actually looks better than that, which I thought was the other way around. But it'd be nice just to get rid of the darker areas there, and the rest of it I think will blend in. This end up here, you can't even see it anymore. That's fine. But yeah, I need to work on that one a bit. So I'll just put some more of this oxalic acid on here, And I'll just touch those little bits there, and maybe there. If I could get rid of the ring colour that's going across the grain, I don't think you'd notice that. Just going to try and blend this in a little bit. I don't want to get a tide mark. So I'll do up there as well, and I dripped a bit down here. And it's still got the marks there. I'm only leaving this for a few minutes and it really knocks it around, so I wouldn't want to leave it for 10 minutes or something. I've neutralised it with washing soda. This is just warm water, just to try and get the washing soda off. And once again, that's looking much better. That's still got some marks on it. I think what's happening is there's still stain in the wood, and the oxalic acid, when I put that on, it just takes that out completely, and you get that contrast of the very light wood against the old stain part. So when I smooth it all back again, it doesn't look so bad. I think this area here needs some work, but once again, I'll let it dry out again and I'll see what it looks like. It's been a little while since the last bit of video. I let this dry off. The marks were still there. I tried again with the oxalic acid and it's really not making any difference. So I've actually gone back to using a bit of peroxide and I've just touched up those areas again. I'll give them a few minutes and I'll just wipe it off again. That's been about 2 or 3 minutes. I'll just see what's going on. I probably should have let it dry before I put it on, but I thought if it was wet, maybe it would feather it a bit better and you wouldn't get the tide mark. Yeah, it still doesn't look any good. I'm going to keep going with this. I'll come back when I get it to a reasonable level, but I have to leave it like that. That's it. I'm not going to do any more. I've been playing with this for another, half an hour or so, and it just doesn't seem to want to lighten anymore. I could go hardcore and really hit it. I don't want to go too far. So I'm going to call it quits at that. With the stain on, maybe it'll hide it a bit. I don't know. I'll finish sanding this off. There's a couple of little dents and things that need to be attended to. I'll get it ready for the first coat. I've filled the holes, the scratches, the dents. I tried to steam out some of the dents. Didn't really work. So I've got filler in a lot of areas. The factory had filler in it. It's got a bit of a crack in some of the veneer. It's not going to ever look fantastic, but it is what it is. We'll do what we can. What I've been doing in the last, half a dozen projects, I've used shellac as the first layer. That was recommended to me by a furniture maker. That helps seal the wood, and it also shows up any defects that are going to show up, and if you need to, you can just get some metho and wipe it off again. So this is a normal shellac mix, and then you thin it down, I think about 50% more. So I'll stick it on. And it dries really fast. I'll do the ends as well. The stain goes over the top of this, and the idea is that it doesn't soak into any fillers you've got, so the stain immediately goes onto any filler you've got and makes it very dark. So this should stop it doing that. I'll do this front escutcheon area, and this has come out really nice. The repair in the corner that I did is perfect. So it'll have one good perfect bit to it, if nothing else. I need to let that cure for most of the day, actually. I'll let it really harden off, and then I'll put some stain on it, and then I can start putting the finishing coats on. Also cleaned up and sanded these two side panels, so I'll do the same with those. Just watching the grain pop out makes all the work you do worth it, I reckon. Looks fantastic. As I said, I'll let all that dry for the rest of the day. I've let this dry overnight and it's ready to put the stain on. I ran over it with some 4-0 steel wool and it's really smooth. It's very nice. The radio originally was probably an oak colour, but it's got so much damage on it. I'm going to use walnut. It's a bit darker, and that should cover a bit better than maybe the lighter brown colour. Right, I'll start on the side. That's drying off. I'm going to rub it down with a cloth just to even it out, take off any excess. I still have to do the two side panels over there, but I'm going to let that dry off. I'll leave that for most of the day actually to make sure it's really dry. The video's run for a bit more than 30 minutes now. I'm going to stop here. Next time we'll put the top coat on. I still have to make a knob for the tone control. It's going to be a full moulding for that one. I can't just do a half mould like last time. The grill cloth still needs to be addressed. Yeah, still a fair bit to do, and it's going to look great when it's got the top coat on it. I hope you enjoyed what we did today, and I hope you can join me next time for my next radio adventure.